Please welcome your founding executive, scientific and healthcare initiatives, Dr. David Hill.
Thank you. It is great to be with you this morning. Did you enjoy all of that information? You know, it's a little bit overwhelming when Corey comes and he speaks and we begin talking about all of the initiatives in doTerra. And then when we have this opportunity to see and experience firsthand some of what we're doing with our growers and with our partners that way. I loved that he shared with you that they are stakeholders in our company. They have a vested interest with us and us with them. Now, I noticed that one of the things that Tim shared when we had that wonderful group here on stage is that there was more than 25 languages that were spoken amongst that group. Wasn't that amazing? But it caused me to think and to reflect for just a moment. I think in doTerra, we seem to have one language, and it's the language of love. Would you agree with me? We truly do love them, and we love all of you and are grateful for all that you do to help us in this wonderful and amazing work that we're doing. Now, it's my privilege this morning to spend just a few moments with you and help set the stage for our next three speakers, as well as share a little bit more information with you. Now, you remember over the last year or two, we've talked a lot about Copaiba coming from Brazil. And we've talked a lot about the endocannabinoid system and the value that it brings. And today I want to highlight just a couple of really quick things for you. One is to make sure that we're in the same understanding with some of what we have positioned ourselves as with Copaiba and why we feel like it has great value, but give a reminder of the differences that exist within that essential oil and some of the other things that we hear in the marketplace. Now, one of the things that we all know and that we all now firmly understand about the endocannabinoid system is that it's not singular in its outcome, nor is it singular in the things that it provides for us throughout the entire body. It's not isolated to just one area or one system or one component within the body. And that is significant for us for a number of different reasons. Can I, before I go any further, can I just ask you a question? Did you enjoy yesterday? Did you have the same sense that I did that yesterday we reached a pinnacle? We've been climbing this mountain for a long, long period of time. And yesterday you got full view and full purpose of why these types of discussions are so critical within doTerra. And more importantly, I felt very grateful for yesterday. It wasn't a moment of validation for me, it was a moment of deep and sincere appreciation. Can we tell all of our doctors, all of our scientists, all of our partners that we work with in this way, the hospitals and the universities, can we share with them just our gratitude and how much we appreciate all of their great, great effort that they do for us? Now, let's talk about the cannabinoid system again just real quickly. Now, one of the things that is unique about it is that it does help us to normalize a lot of body systems and a lot of body functions. Now, by normalizing body systems and functions, you saw that Mark put me in a headlock the other day after I was done speaking. I'm not going to be any more careful today. It turns out he's not very strong, so I'm okay. I think I'll be just fine. When I talk about normalizing body systems, I really want you to understand what it is that we mean when we say that. We know that every single one of us, in one way or another, are going to have specific challenges in terms of our health. And those challenges are going to come to us in a variety of different ways. You've also heard lots of discussion over this few days, talking about one of the biggest challenges that we face within the body is the need for us to be able to control and have proper inflammatory responses. When we don't, I thought Dr. Riggs yesterday gave you a great example of many of the outcomes that we see when those systems are not supported properly, when we don't have the strength that we need, the resiliency that we need within those types of systems within the body. It was somewhat sobering to realize how effective and how massively that affects each and every single one of us in this room today. The endocannabinoid system is part of your body's defense system for all of those things that were discussed yesterday. And so it's important that we have good, proper stimulation, utilization of that system throughout the body. Now, these are the things that you always hear about with the endocannabinoid system. This is what all the excitement and enthusiasm is about. There's another part to the endocannabinoid system that I think we overlook, that we don't really talk very much about. And that is that it creates a space of homeostasis within the body. Now, I know when we talk about homeostasis, we always seem to be talking about the neurology of the body, specifically the autonomic nervous system, parasympathetic versus sympathetic, fight or flight response, rest and digest. Homeostasis is more than that. Homeostasis is how your body interprets information. It's the experiences that we have. It's mood, it's emotion, it's appetite, it's energy, it's all of those substances and those systems and components of how our body functions combined together. And in one way or another, the endocannabinoid system has effect and influence within that. And so it's critical that we learn how we can best support that functioning within the body. Now, last year, I had a great opportunity to speak with you a little bit about some of the differences between CBD and with our Copaiba essential oil. I had to laugh this morning. Somebody reminded me that you said that Copaiba is supposed to be pronounced Copaiba. Well, it depends on what part of the world you're in. Who do we have here from Brazil today? Copaiba, I'm speaking directly to you. And that is what they refer to it there in their home country, so I follow their lead. So let's talk about CBD just for a moment. Now, I know that there remains a lot of enthusiasm, there remains a lot of energy, there's a lot of individuals, maybe even here with us today, who have some excitement about this essential, well, it's not an essential oil. It isn't. But who have a lot of excitement about what is being called an oil. Let me share with you two really quick points, just give you something to think about. First, CBD oil, we've made it abundantly clear that while we're not necessarily opposed to the idea and the concept, has some challenges that remain for us here at doTerra. And so I want to restate our position that we are not providing this for you. And the reason why we are not is because there are some analytical challenges. One of the things that you should have learned yesterday in our pursuit for purity is that we do a lot of analytics. And there are some analytical challenges in that we don't see consistency, and we do not want to invest in that consistency. The other thing that we see is that there's some regulatory challenges. We talked about this. We said in spite of a lot of individuals being willing to move this forward and to share this, there are regulatory challenges. And in our pursuit of being pure within this company, we will follow and adhere ourselves to those practices and regulatory environments that demand that we do so. And we're not willing to take any risks that way as a company. We will not do that. Corey this morning shared with you that you are our primary stakeholders in this company. We are working to protect you in all elements of that, including this one. But perhaps the most primary reason why we are going to hold to our position of not providing this for you at this time is because it does not meet our CPTG standards. And I really don't care, and I think I believe I speak for all of my partners, regardless of what the trends are in the marketplace, regardless of what everyone else says, we will not go against our own standard. Now, that brings me to another point. Perhaps one of my favorite discussions of convention this year has been quack, quack, quack. I'm going to get Greg Cook a shirt that says quack, quack, quack. I took that point to heart when I heard that, and I realized something. We need not concern ourselves with what everyone else is doing. We're in a circumstance where we are doing something different by design and by choice. And that difference leads us into a different type of discussion in doTerra. And so when we look at an oil like copaiba, it's not just another essential oil. You've learned that we put tremendous amounts of thought and energy into the purpose, the use, and why that becomes so valuable for us. In this case, here we have 4 very individual species of copaiba. We have blended them together. Not only does it give us uniqueness within this product, and it stands as a differential between ourselves and every other company who might even offer copaiba, it allows us to have different outcomes. It allows us to accentuate the real value that we see within the essential oils themselves. Now, one of the key and unique things that we see within this essential oil is, of course, this is probably my only chemistry discussion in this entire convention, is going to be because of the sesquiterpene content. Nearly 100% sesquiterpenes. We have an oil that has great complexity because of that. And you need to understand, or you should know, that some of the oils that we represent to you don't have the same complexity. Complexity of oils comes from the chemistry. Complexity of the oil comes from how that chemistry interacts and responds within the body. The more complex the chemistry becomes, in some cases, the more broad the stroke can be for the value and the benefit that we receive. In other cases, the more complex the chemistry, the more specific and the more focused we can be. And in this case, with copaiba, because of this high concentration of sesquiterpenes, and because of the complexity of that chemistry, we receive some very specific benefits. One, we have higher metabolic potential. It means the outcomes and the benefits we receive from this essential oil has an expectation that is very high, partially because of how it interacts with the endocannabinoid system, but partially because of the diversity of that chemistry, multiples of pathways and outcomes that we can influence. The other thing that we see with an essential oil that has high sesquiterpene load, and this is one of the things that I love about this essential oil, is we get longer lasting benefits. It's not just a one and done usage model. Many times when we use an essential oil that has great complexity, it gives us the ability to have, of course, primary metabolites, primary metabolism. But then there can be secondary and tertiary metabolism and metabolites that each individually do more good and allow us to carry and continue the effect and the benefit that we're receiving. So yes, I'm stating with you one more time, we are about copaiba. Yes, we are doing that above and beyond anything else in the marketplace. Yesterday, you heard me talk about how wonderful and amazing and how excited I am about the turmeric duo cap. But you remember at the end of that conversation, I said one of the things that we should partnership with that new product is the use of copaiba because of the value that it brings to us. Now, we know some other things about copaiba that allow it to be differentiated. And by the way, these are qualities that we see in nearly every single essential oil. We know that, for example, we have a complete oil profile. When we look at something like a CBD, where we have a isolated molecule that's then put into a carrier oil, and that's why it's called an oil, that's different than when we have a complete chemical profile, like what we see within the essential oils. And remember that the essential oils behave differently than any other form of botanical or any other form of natural medicine that we might be exposed to. The other reason that we see that is because we have direct receptor activation. This has been something that doTerra has been focused on for some time as we unfold more of the mystery of essential oils. We're beginning to understand where and how they work, the pathways that they followed. And I've got to tell Dr. O, thank you for all that he shared with you yesterday in exposing to you some of those pathways and some of the things that we now understand that nobody has ever seen before in the world. Now, I found this interesting. There are more than 1,000 studies that have been done currently on copaiba. And one of the things that's been noted, which is, in my opinion, very important, is that small amounts of this essential oil can create great benefit, long-lasting, sustained benefits you've already learned as well. From just 1 to 3 drops seems to be sufficient to activate the endocannabinoid system, seems to be sufficient to have this interaction with the receptors and to have the downstream effects and benefits that come from that in multiple outcomes. Now, it's my privilege. We thought it would be interesting, rather than just restating our position and talking about our strategy with copaiba, we thought it would be good to give you a little bit more information today. And so I'd like to take a moment and introduce to you 3 gentlemen who I have a tremendous amount of love and respect for, and introduce them to you. Let me first introduce to you Dr. Tim Lee. Now, you might remember Dr. Lee from last year. He came and he shared with you a lot of research that we've been conducting with one of our research partners, Roseman University. Dr. Lee is a PhD. He earned his bachelor's degree from UC California, Berkeley, and then he earned his PhD at the University of Chicago, and then he served a prestigious fellowship, postdoctoral fellowship at Purdue. He's very accomplished. He's become a great friend. He's become a great pursuer of purity with essential oils, and we have him here with us today, and he's going to share with you his work over the last year and what he has been doing to understand more about copaiba and specific pathway. So I'm very excited for him to come and share some information with you. An individual who I consider to be one of my dearest and closest friends is Dr. Andrew Goff. He's a member of our medical advisory board. I met him several years ago, and what I've learned about him is that it's hard to find anybody who is more dedicated, more focused, more prepared for patient care and the usage of essential oils and overall concepts of health that we share and that we teach here in doTerra. Now, he's very accomplished. He's a board-certified emergency room physician. He's known as the oil doctor, and there are people who go to the ER just so they can see him. I don't know. Maybe they fake injuries. I don't know what they do. I just got to go. Is Dr. Goff in? No. Okay, I'm fine till tomorrow. He holds simultaneous degrees in sports medicine, in chemistry and in psychology. This explains to me why he's trying to analyze me every time I speak with him. And then finally, I'd like to introduce to you a gentleman by the name of Scott Johnson. In a short period of time, I've developed a tremendous amount of respect for Scott Johnson. He's an expert in natural medicine. He's wrote more than a dozen books that are bestsellers on the subject of natural medicine, healthcare, and on essential oils. I consider him to be an expert with essential oils, and he is a new member for us here at doTerra, has joined our team for education and for sciences. I'm thrilled to have him here with us. Will you please help me welcome to the stage our good friend and great partner, Scott Johnson.
Hello, doTerra family. How is everyone? Thank you for that warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be with you here today and to be able to take just a few moments to share with you about my favorite essential oil, copaiba. Now, since the discovery of the endocannabinoid system in the 1960s, there's been a great excitement about molecules and substances that can interact with this system and activate it and produce a physiological response in the body. And two of the most studied of those molecules are beta-caryophyllene from copaiba and CBD. But I'm going to share with you how copaiba does some things that CBD can't. And so why it's one of my favorite essential oil. So because they work within that same system, people naturally want to compare them. But I'd tell you that it's not really a fair comparison. And the reason I say that is because copaiba is the essential oil that's extracted from the copaiba resin, from the copaiba trees and the resin they produce. Whereas CBD is a plant extract that comes from the cannabis plant, which is often mixed with a carrier oil like an olive oil. So they're both valuable tools and have a place in your wellness toolkit, but the reality is that copaiba has some advantages and has some benefits that we maybe can't achieve with CBD. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that the FDA is still currently evaluating CBD's place and determining its long-term effects when we use it cumulatively, as well as its effects in some special populations like the children, the elderly, and women who are pregnant and nursing. So we still have some more to discover about that. Before we have this discussion, it's important that we understand what the endocannabinoid system is. This is a system of enzymes and receptors and molecules that helps to maintain homeostasis. And Dr. Hill just explained to you really well what homeostasis is. So what this does is this system helps to stabilize the body so that we can have greater periods of homeostasis. It predominantly has two receptors. The first is called CB1. These receptors are found within your central nervous system or your brain and your spinal cord, but they're also located in other areas of the body, such as your eyes and your blood vessels. Now, the other receptors are called CB2. CB2 receptors are predominantly found within your immune system and immune-related organs, such as your spleen and your tonsils. But this receptor is not just found within your immune system, it's actually found throughout the body and in major organs such as your heart and your liver and your lungs. So because of that, it can widely influence our body as well. Now, there are molecules that can interact within this system, and I'm going to talk to you about 3 groups of these molecules. And the first are called endocannabinoids. These are cannabinoids that are naturally produced within your body, and they are meant to interact with these receptors that we just talked about. In addition, you will find phytocannabinoids. Now, these are found within and produced by plants. So these are in the plant kingdom. We know that cannabis has cannabinoids within it. The plant does. But it's not the only plant that has cannabinoids. We've actually now identified several plants, including things like liverwort and black truffles, and even the cacao plant, that have cannabinoids within them. And then, of course, essential oils that carry beta-caryophyllene within them, like melissa and black pepper, and of course, copaiba, which has the highest percentage of this beta-caryophyllene within it. Now, the third group are synthetic cannabinoids. These are produced by man in a laboratory, and they were originally produced so that we could better study the endocannabinoid system, because they have a strong ability to bind to these CB1 and CB2 receptors within the system, which allows us to better study the structure and function and activity and location of these receptors. So that's why they were created. The last part of this system are the enzymes, and the enzymes help us maintain optimum levels of those endocannabinoids that our body naturally produces. And they do so by creating endocannabinoids from fatty acids that are within our body. Now, if we have higher levels than the body needs to use at that time, then they will actually degrade them back into a fatty acid so that the fatty acids can be used elsewhere within the body. So now we get down to some of these advantages that I promised I'd share of copaiba. Number 1 is the direct activity on the CB2 receptors. Beta-caryophyllene selectively and directly binds to and activates the CB2 receptors within the body. And so when it does so, you get more rapid cellular effects because of it. On the contrary, if you look at CBD, it really doesn't have a good ability to bind to either CB1 or CB2 receptors. And so it doesn't have a direct activity, it has an indirect activity, and you can anticipate slower cellular effects within the body. Price is another huge factor, because if you go out onto the open market and you buy CBD right now, you are going to pay thousands of dollars per kilogram for it. So it makes it very expensive to get a beneficial dose into your body. On the contrary, copaiba is very affordable and costs less for a beneficial dose. Now, I want to emphasize this third point because it's really important, and Dr. Hill alluded to this already with the analytics that he talked about. A study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association in 2017 tested multiple CBD products available on the market. And they found that 69% of the products on the market did not have the concentration of CBD in the bottle that was on the label. So in other words, we have an adulterated or a mislabeled CBD product 69% of the time. Now, even more alarming, the same study found that multiple of those products actually had higher levels of THC than are currently allowed according to federal regulations, some of which were high enough that they could produce a mind-altering effect in certain individuals. So there's a purity issue that we have to consider. Some other advantages. Safety is another one. When you look at the safety of CBD, it's being investigated in clinical trials, and as scientists and medical professionals have investigated it in clinical trials, what they have noticed is that the people receiving clinical doses used are experiencing elevated liver enzymes. Now, what does that mean? That means there's a potential harm to the liver occurring because of them taking that CBD. If you look at beta-caryophyllene instead, it's generally considered safe, non-toxic, tolerable, and has a very wide safety margin. Now, another thing, legality. Dr. Hill mentioned this too, but legality, even though the federal government has relaxed some of the legislation or the regulatory environment for CBD, some states still have more stringent and strict regulations in place, making there a conflict between the state and the federal governments. And the FDA currently, because they are still completing their investigation on the safety and the effects of CBD, has not created a regulatory path for CBD to be sold on the market yet. Complexity is another thing that we can talk about as an advantage for copaiba. When you extract copaiba essential oil from the resin, you generally end up with about 100 compounds within that oil, almost all of which is sesquiterpenes. If you extract CBD from the cannabis plant, you will end up with a total of about 32 compounds, and it's almost entirely CBD with only trace amounts of the other 31 compounds in it. So this greater complexity means we have an ability to have a more diverse and complex effect on our wellness with copaiba. Now, the other point is pathway. Copaiba and beta-caryophyllene don't exclusively work within the endocannabinoid system. In fact, because of the study that's been done on this great molecule, we know that it works on multiple pathways, genes, cell receptors, and proteins found within the body to affect our overall well-being. And I'll talk about some of those here in just a moment. So I want to talk about CBD because I'm not saying that CBD is not a tool or not a good thing for us to have available, but what I'm saying is it's not used without some limitations. The indirect activity of CBD means that you can expect slower cellular responses. In fact, because CBD does not bind really well to either one of the receptors within the system, it tends to act more as a helper molecule that signals the endocannabinoid system to work more efficiently, and in some cases helps to modulate our responses to other molecules that do directly bind to that. So that leaves us with an indirect and slower response and activity. Now, the other thing I just want to mention that's a limiting factor of CBD that we know is in humans, when they ingest CBD, we tend to absorb only 6% of what we ingest. And so if you were to take 100 milligrams of CBD, you actually are excreting 94 milligrams of that CBD and only absorbing 6% into your bloodstream. So that's a lot of waste. Now, the CB2 receptors have become a major target to regulate immune and inflammatory responses in the body because they are located abundantly in our immune system. But that doesn't limit their effect there because these CB2 receptors are also located within our digestive tract and in major organs of the body and in the bones and the muscles. When we have a substance like beta-caryophyllene that can directly activate these, it helps to regulate and promote healthy brain, musculoskeletal, cardiovascular, digestive, and overall cellular function within the body. So here's where I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the pathways, the genes, the receptors, and the proteins that we know beta-caryophyllene works on outside of the endocannabinoid system. Those that are involved in our overall cellular health. Those that help regulate our inflammatory response. And I want to pause and just explain that for a minute because sometimes when I say we want a healthy inflammatory response, people look at me and go, I don't want any inflammation in my body. But the reality is, if you did not have inflammation in your body, you'd be dead. Because we have to have inflammation for our immune system to work properly. We have to have inflammation for wound healing to occur properly. So we want a little bit of inflammation, but we just want to maintain that healthy range and a healthy inflammatory response. We can also promote healthy organ function. We can promote body comfort. That's a huge thing that we use Copaiba for. Many of us have realized those benefits. It helps to support memory function and cognitive function. How many of us here want to keep our cognitive abilities and memory function as long as we can? I'm sure we all do, right? It's involved in pathways that help to maintain lipid regulation. It helps influence our cellular antioxidant defenses. In fact, it activates one of our major intracellular antioxidant defenses called NRF2 that helps protect us against cellular damage caused by free radicals, and also is involved in the longevity of our cells. And when we use, we also know that it will improve virtually almost all body functions, because proteins are a major component of cells. And beta-caryophyllene interacts with the expression of multiple proteins found within our body. Now, I wanted to briefly mention that scientists have already started to investigate now other essential oils and how they might influence the endocannabinoid system. Those that don't have any known any known phytocannabinoids, or have very small quantities of beta-caryophyllene. One example of that is lavender. Recently, scientists discovered that lavender inhibits the enzymes that break down or degrade those endocannabinoids our body naturally produces. So what does that mean? That means more of them are available to the body for the endocannabinoid system to use. Now, I'm convinced as scientists to continue to evaluate essential oils and how they work within the endocannabinoid system, we're going to find a diversity of essential oils that will affect this influence, activate it or influence it, and will do so in a diversity of ways. So I know I've talked a lot about the science of what Copaiba and beta-caryophyllene do. So what's the takeaway? What does this mean, right? What does this mean for us? Well, first, we know that it's going to support a healthy inflammatory response in the body. It's going to aid cardiovascular, immune, digestive, brain, and respiratory system function. It's going to reduce worrisome thoughts. Anybody ever have worrisome thoughts? Well, one of the ways I've found that this works really well is to put 1 or 2 drops just directly under your tongue. That's a great way to help reduce maybe some worrisome thoughts. Maybe some of us speakers maybe want to be putting Copaiba on our tongue right before we come out, right? It improves the appearance of I've skipped one. It supports healthy female reproductive function. That's something that we're just beginning to understand, but has huge potential. When we apply it topically, it helps to reduce the appearance of blemishes and improve the appearance of the skin, and help restore stressed skin as well. Another huge benefit of Copaiba is that science shows us that it improves the absorption and the efficacy of other lipophilic molecules. Well, what are essential oils? Lipophilic molecules. So in other words, we can use Copaiba to enhance the benefits of our other essential oils we use topically by improving their absorption through the layers of the skin, and then the benefits that we receive after they get into the body. And if we want to diffuse it, we can create a calm and relaxing environment as well. So the bottom line is that Copaiba, when it's used daily and on a regular basis, helps you live a longer, healthier life with greater periods of homeostasis. So I really appreciate the opportunity I've had to share with you. I look forward to meeting you and to partnering with you so that we can help improve the health of generations to come through doTerra's amazing products. Thank you so much.
Please welcome to the stage Roseman University research scientist and assistant professor of biomedical sciences, Dr. Timothy Lee.
Never thought I could. Hello. Today I'm going to share with you our research on the effects of copaiba versus CBD oils on neuronal signaling pathway. Very quickly, please allow me to share with you what I do professionally. I run a molecular imaging and proteomic labs at the Roseman University of Health Sciences. On a typical day at work, I tinker with ultra-fast lasers on a microscope system that I custom built. My associate, Dr. Yasuyo Urazaki, work on proteomic assays. So we use molecular imaging and proteomics to identify biomarkers for metabolic diseases and cancers. Since last year, we've been applying this technology to study the biological function of essential oils. The research that we presented to you on this very stage last year has now been published. In the journal Molecules. So in this study, we used proteomics to develop a physiological lie detector test to authenticate essential oils. This year, we used proteomics to study the effects of copaiba versus CBD oils on neuronal signaling pathway. As we all know, both copaiba and CBD oils might have the analgesic effects, but they might also have very different acting mechanisms. Because copaiba interact directly with the CB2 receptor. In contrast, CBD oils does not interact with either CB1 or CB2 receptors. So the question that we want to ask is how copaiba oils and CBD oils affect signaling activity within the neurons. So in this study, we used cultures of human neurons, and we treated them with copaiba and CBD oils and measured the signaling activity over time. But we had a big problem. Which CBD oils should we purchase and use for this study? Now, choosing copaiba oils is extremely easy. Because of the certified pure therapeutic grade, with guaranteed purity and quality of the oils. In contrast, there is no such standard for CBD oils. So we went to Amazon.com and we got thoroughly confused with the selections. Right? An average consumer would have a very difficult time to select the right CBD oils. Fortunately, we're not an average consumer. We happen to be the scientists who, together with doTerra, developed a physiological lie detector test that we presented to you last year. All right? So we said, bring them on. Bring on the challenge. We bought 6 CBD oils from 6 different vendors, and we put them through the test. Now, as it turned out, only one CBD oil passed the test and exhibits strong biological activities. The other 5 CBD oils failed the test, had no biological activity, or extremely low biological activities. So we called the company. We went to their website to learn about the process by which they produce their CBD oils. And we learned that only one company sold us pure and unadulterated CBD oils that they collected right after CO2 extraction. The other 5 companies sold us adulterated oils that have been diluted with carrier oils and added with CBD isolates. So we chose the pure and unadulterated CBD oils that passed our tests for this study. So how do we measure the signaling activity? Let's take a look at this signaling pathway, the PI3K, AKT, mTOR, which regulate neuronal growth, metabolism, and survival. To measure the signaling activity of this pathway, we measure the expression and phosphorylation level of 9 proteins which in the signaling cascade, as listed in this table. So here are some of the raw data that we collected. In blue are untreated control. In pink are treated for 30 minutes. And in green are treated for 24 hours. We found that copaiba transiently increased AKT phosphorylations, which then returned to baseline level after 24 hours. In contrast, CBD oils steadily reduce the phosphorylation and expression level of AKT over the 24-hour period. Further downstream of AKT, we continue to observe opposite effects of copaiba and CBD oils, where copaiba transiently increased the phosphorylations of mTOR and P70S6K, which then returned to baseline level after 24 hours. In contrast, CBD oils steadily reduced the phosphorylation and expression level of AKT over the 24-hour period. So following the assessment of all 9 proteins within the signaling cascade, it became very clear that copaiba upregulated in contrast, CBD oils downregulated the PI3K, AKT, mTOR signaling pathway. So we systematically apply proteomics to measure the expression and phosphorylation level of a diagnostic panels of 30 proteins, which allow us to evaluate the signaling activity of 11 signaling pathways in neurons. And we summarize our data here for your viewing. Red color indicate upregulations, blue color indicate a downregulations, compared to untreated control in white color. So as you can see, copaiba consistently upregulated many signaling pathways in neurons. In contrast, CBD oil consistently downregulated many signaling pathways in neurons. So here is a summary of our finding that copaiba oils increases neuronal signaling activity. In contrast, CBD oil decreases neuronal signaling activities. Copaiba induces short-term reversible responses, which is consistent with a direct interactions with neural receptors. In contrast, CBD oils induce long-term adaptive responses, which indicate an indirect interactions with neural receptors. Copaiba oils induce an anti-inflammatory response by upregulating the immunity and metabolism signaling pathway. In contrast, CBD oils induce resting states in neurons that are consistent with the anxiolytic effects. Okay? So we found that we anticipate that copaiba would have the strongest effects in microglial cells and lymphocytes. In contrast, CBD oil would have the strongest effects in neurons. So as you can see, copaiba and CBD oils might have the analgesic effects, but clearly they have very different acting mechanisms and targets. There was one observation that we found very interesting with copaiba oil, where in liver cells, we found that copaiba downregulated the PI3K, AKT, mTOR signaling pathway. However, in neuron, we found that copaiba upregulated the same signaling pathway. There is a logical explanation for this differential effect, because AKT isoforms have both overlapping and distinctive functions. AKT1 regulate cell growth and migration. AKT2 regulate glucose metabolism, and AKT3 regulate neuronal development. Now, in liver cells was on top, AKT3 were completely absent. However, in neurons, AKT was a dominant isoform. So the difference in the composition of the AKT isoform was the reason why copaiba have differential effect on the same signaling pathway in liver compared to neuronal cells. But this observation indicates that the route of administration matters for copaiba. For example, aromatic diffusion, copaiba interact with the brain and lung tissues. For topical application, copaiba interact with the skin tissue, and for ingestion, copaiba interact with the GI tract and liver tissues. So it's very important that we know the effects of copaiba on different tissue types in order to optimize its uses. So we are developing a comprehensive library that describes the composition of AKT isoform in different tissue types. We also developing an algorithm that can predict the effects of copaiba in different tissue types, and we are experimentally testing this algorithm. We anticipate that differential effects on different tissue types is not a property unique to copaiba, but should be applicable to other essential oils as well. So our library and our predictive algorithm would be critical in guiding the most optimal route of administration for essential oil. So what else we do for essential oil? We are developing a handheld spectrometer for the field assessment of essential oil crops, and an endoscope for real-time visualization of topical absorption of essential oils. I will sell data on this project at another time. But what I've been presenting to you is consistent with the theme of this year's convention and highlight the industry-academia interface. The collaboration between doTerra and Rosemont University of Health Sciences seek to understand the molecular mechanism underlying the biological activity of essential oils. In the process, we develop and apply cutting-edge technology to further our investigations. And our findings would lead to rational designs of novel products that synergize essential oils, botanicals, nutraceuticals, and pharmaceuticals. Before I stop, I would like to acknowledge Dr. Yasuyo Urizaki and Dr. Talbot for being the co-investigator on this project, Dr. Harry Rosenberg and Dr. Renee Kaufman, the co-founder of our university, for their support of biomedical research, And of course, this project would not be possible without the vision and the support of Dr. David Hill, Dr. Russia Osgothorf, and the interaction with many dedicated and talented scientists at doTerra, Dr. Cody Beaumont, Nicole Stevens, Alex DeBell, and Ryan Finch. I would like to acknowledge the institution that funded my research, and thank you so much for your attention.
Please welcome doTerra Blue Diamond and emergency medicine practitioner, Dr. Andrew Guff.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I am so thankful for people like Dr. Lee who work hard to make sure that we know the science behind what we're using. I just want to recap to make sure I got it right. My understanding, Copaiba good, CBD bad. Right? You know, I've had the opportunity to speak all over the world at medical conferences and scientific seminars. This is a way better place to be. I am so excited and honored to be with you guys here today. As wellness advocates, you guys are revolutionizing healthcare. You guys are bringing light and hope to people who desperately need it. As a physician, I am constantly presented with patients who are struggling with ongoing issues that affect the quality of their life, that steal their joy and affect their relationships and finances. Some of these people even believe that there is no light at the end of the tunnel for them. I know these people, and you know these people. Some of these people may be here with us today, and it is time for their story to change. Today, it is my intention to share with you how the tiny drops from a bowl of Copaiba have the power to change lives. They have the power to change their stories. I'm just curious, how many here love Copaiba? You know, I predict with all of the amazing knowledge and research that we've been given today, we're about to experience an unprecedented wave of empowerment yet to hit. Today, I have 4 stories of real people whose lives have been changed by those who have cared enough to share light and share the power of Copaiba with them. Are you ready to hear their stories? All right. I'd like to introduce you to Gloria. At the age of 4, when Gloria was given a pair of scissors and taught how to cut hair, she knew what she wanted to do for the rest of her life. And she worked hard to become a hairdresser. She was able to open up her own salon, and people loved to come to see her, not only because of her exceptional talents as a hairdresser, but because of the way she made them feel when they were there with her. Unfortunately, Gloria started to experience joint discomfort, excruciatingly, that was made worse by the repetitive motion of cutting hair. She went to see her doctor and was taking medications, but the pain was becoming more and more constant and more excruciating, to the point where she was only seeing 2 people a day, and she was losing hope. She was realizing that she may soon have to give up those scissors that she had treasured so much and close her salon. Believing in the power of natural solutions, Gloria started to look for different options. Believing in the power of food to not only bring about the most powerful form of medicine for the body, but also in being the slowest form of poison, Gloria decided that she was going to change what she was going to eat. She also looked to the earth for natural solutions to support her body's natural inflammatory process. Gloria's protocol was as simple as it was powerful. She changed her diet, taking out those pro-inflammatory foods, which would make that pain worse. She started to use copaiba, putting 2 drops on her hand with some deep blue, massaging it every morning and every night, and stretching her hands. And when the deep blue soft gels came out, she started taking it internally. Gloria was amazed at the results. She told me, you know, Doc, when I put on that oil, that constant excruciating pain goes away. Gloria is back to seeing 6 people a day at her salon. Right? She was empowered as she started to look for natural solutions. Gloria's story shows us the power that copaiba has to support natural inflammatory processes in the body, and it is a powerful tool in our toolbox for natural health. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Tim. Tim is a Hitterite turkey farmer. He is a good man. But Tim was in need of respiratory support. His difficulty breathing would be so bad that he was often just plain exhausted and short of breath. As the seasons changed, the winds would blow. As dust was kicked up and pollen counts were high, his condition was especially worse. And he became a frequent in the emergency department, and he was hospitalized every year of his life because of this condition. He was told that his medical condition was his normal, that he would just have to live with it. I wonder, how many people here know someone or have been told themselves that their medical abnormality is actually their normal? Think about it for a second. It doesn't make sense. By definition, abnormal health is not normal. And yet, we see so many people buy into that story. They tell their stories like, Doc, I just have a bad immune system. I get sick all the time. Doc, I'm just depressed. Doc, I have a bad knee. Guys, if we want to change people's lives, we have to learn to change their story. You don't have a bad knee. You have a bad story. And the truth is, every single one of us has the ability to choose a different story. You have choices. You are in control. And once Tim believed this and embraced this truth, his story shifted from seeing things that were out of his control to seeing solutions. Tim's protocol was as simple as it was powerful. At night, Tim would diffuse copaiba, serenity, breathe, and on guard. During the day, he would diffuse copaiba, green mandarin, and breathe. And when he was out and about, Tim would take his rollerball with copaiba, green mandarin, and breathe. And when he felt like he needed that extra support, he would roll it on his chest to help open him up. He would roll it on his hands and use his hands like an inhaler. Guys, when Tim started to believe that he had choices, he started to see solutions. And as he embraced those solutions, miraculous things happened. I love seeing people in the emergency department, but I am not sad to say that I have yet to see Tim this year. Tim's story teaches us that copaiba is a wonderful tool at supporting the respiratory system and is a wonderful tool in a toolbox for health. Next, I'd like to share a story about a dear girl called Meliani. She is a friend to my daughters. She's only 10 years old, but for as long as she can remember, she's had a neurological condition that sometimes strikes with very little warning. It would start with a tingling in her stomach, followed by full body shaking that would leave her exhausted in body and mind. Sometimes these episodes would happen without any warning. After one of these episodes caused her to fall down a flight of stairs, Meliani started to live in fear, not knowing when they would happen. She has loving parents, Sam and Susan, who loved her and did their best to make sure that she got the best help that they could get her. They would often drive a 6-hour round trip at South Dakota for her to make sure that she would get the best medical care that they could and get the best medication that they could use to treat her condition. Yet, as her father shared with me, it's horrible. You do what you can, given medication, but you feel hopeless when she has an episode, and there is nothing you can do. Seeing how the stress affected Meliani's life and even made her condition worse, her loving Aunt Mele decided that she was going to do something about it. Mele is a doTerra wellness advocate. She created a wonderful, powerful blend for her. Meliana's protocol is as simple as it is powerful. Aunt Mele's special blend was a blend of copaiba, balance, lavender, and vetiver. Aunt Mele taught Meliani how to apply this essential oil over her heart, on the back of her neck, and up to the base of her skull, and also to put it on her hands so that she could inhale. Whenever Meliani would feel fear or stress or that telltale sign, she knew what to do, and she started to experience less fear in her life. Those episodes started to become less severe and less frequent. But the best news was the follow-up I got from Sam, her father. 2 years seizure-free. That was a good checkup. Meliana's story teaches us the power of copaiba to support proper neurological function, and again is a powerful tool in a toolbox for health. My final story that I'd like to share with you is of my good friend Ian. Ian is a wonderful husband and father. He is a gifted and hardworking contractor. Unfortunately, at the age of 19, in a work-related injury, Ian injured his back. And like so many people, he was put on an opiate for the pain. After years, Ian was still experiencing excruciating back pain and was still taking opiates. You see, the problem is, as a physician, I was taught to treat pain with pain medication like opiates. And sadly, as a physician, I am treating people with addictions to opiates. I am treating too many people who have overdosed on opiate pain medications. Sometimes I win, and tragically, sometimes I don't. Those patients haunt me, but they make me want to do better. They make me want to learn more, and they make me want to be a better advocate. Do you guys want to hear the truth about pain medication, about opiates? The sad thing is, even though they're prescribed for pain, They do not heal pain. They do not promote healing. They simply mask the symptom, and they often cause more pain than what they were prescribed for, and they affect more lives than is necessary. Pain is a symptom, guys. Pain is not the root cause. You do not have a headache because you have an acetaminophen deficiency any more than someone has lung. Right? But guys, if we don't care about it, who will care? Luckily for Ian, his wife Christy did care, and she became a doTerra wellness advocate. And I bet you know what happens next. She taught Ian and encouraged him to find ways to support his body. And Ian started to practice yoga and incorporate the doTerra supplements daily into his life. Synergistically, this empowered a lifestyle that began to disrupt the dysfunction, and instead of just masking pain, started to promote healing. Ian's protocol is as simple as it is powerful. Ian would faithfully put 2 drops of copaiba under his tongue every morning and every night. He practices yoga and relaxation as often as he can. And as he continues to work as a contractor, when he's feeling additional stress on his body, he takes copaiba soft gels and deep blue polyphenols for optimal support. Today, Ian is completely free of opiates. And he feels more hope and is empowered because he has options and is in control of his story. Ian teaches us, again, that copaiba is powerful at alleviating pain and discomfort in the body. Remember, guys, copaiba what? Good? CBD bad, and opiates are bad. Now, I'm wondering, can we just turn the lights down for a minute, please? Guys, for too many people, this is how they feel. They feel darkness in their life. They feel a lack of hope. But it doesn't have to be this way. Because of people like Mele, because of people like Christy, and people like you as wellness advocates, you are bringing light and hope to people around you. And so if that is you, will you take out your phone and turn the light on right now? Guys, look at the light. This is how we revolutionize healthcare. This is how we change the world, and this is how we help people to change their stories. If any of you, like me, have received impressions while you've been here at Convention of people who need your help on how these amazing gifts of the earth can bring change to their life, to bring hope and light, make a determination right now that you will do something about it, that you will reach out to them. Be the light that they need. Will you do that for me? To help you get the most out of this presentation, you can have it. If you follow that link, you can have a free download to this presentation and the case studies and the protocols which we used. I firmly believe that we have been given the tools, and with the education we're receiving, we will be empowered to be the light that other people need. So be the light, guys, and thank you.